Good morning.
Morning.
Hi, folks. We are here at Always in Stitches in Noblesville, Indiana. Peter's taking a sip from his canteen. Sarah's next to me over here in the green, and I'm Jessica. And we decided it was time for a knitting podcast. We like to knit. We figure you do too. And so we're just going to hang out and chat. We've got some things to show you and share with you.
Sharing is caring.
What'd you bring, Peter?
Well, I was interested because so many people ask, other knitters, like, oh, when did you start knitting? Or how did you get started knitting? So I was wondering, how did you get started knitting?
So I actually came into yarn through crochet. I learned to crochet when I was, somewhere between 6 and 10. I actually asked my mom on Sunday, and she couldn't pin down the timing either. But then, so let's call it 10. Before I was 10, I learned to crochet, and then I wanted to learn to knit. And I failed. I tried, and I failed. And I was 30 when I finally figured out how to knit. In fact,
Wow.
my great aunt said, I will give you all my knitting things if you want to knit. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't know how. And she's like, I'll teach you. And she did. So this is my great aunt's needle roll of
Wow.
she sewed the storage case for her knitting needles, and she gave me all her needles and her stitch markers and all that cool stuff. And I occasionally still use these, but thanks, Marilyn. I love knitting. That's how about you, Sarah? How'd you learn to knit?
I kind of think I may have learned crochet first too, the chaining. And we were talking, and I'll bring it sometime. My grandma would teach us crochet, and my mom would teach us knitting. And I did a baby bonnet, and it's absolutely flawless. But I think my grandma undid what I did and recrocheted it in the middle of the night. So it took me till I was 56 years old to realize that I did not crochet that beautifully on my first try. So, but then my mom would work with us, and I don't remember my first project or anything, but she had a set of interchangeable. It was a book of interchangeable needles.
With like a snap on it?
Yes.
Yes, I know those.
Yeah, and I don't know if those were Jolene's or what they were. But we had those, and it had a little book of stitches in it. And so we would make our own patterns, which is a completely different skill than reading a pattern. We would make our own patterns, and I had all these cables on mine, and I would make little teddy bear sweaters. So, yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Small scale.
Small
fun.
scale, and I had no idea, and I would do my own. And I would study other people's sweaters when I was in classes or something and write little patterns. Like,
I
what
actually did
stitch
that
is
in church the other day.
Ah.
One of the kids who'd been in one of my classes, she sat down in front of me and she was wearing this cool lavender sweater with this great texture, and I'm like, that one.
Yeah,
So I
and you're
made my
sitting
little
there
notes. Yeah. I gotta have that one.
The one I did was off a guy's sweater. It was a lot like what Jessica's wearing. It was knits and pearls, and it was like a gingham. But I did knit it. So
That's
it was
cool.
fun. Yeah.
That's cool. How
That's
about you, Peter?
awesome. I actually have a sweater that you knit for my little teddy bear.
I did.
Should I go
that's
get it?
It's really
I'll go
little.
get it.
There's the teeny
you
tiny
get it?
sweater.
Look what I found.
You showed
Look
them.
at him. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
here, can you see that?
I think go closer.
Yeah.
So I have this little monkey because I've always loved Curious George, and when I saw this collectible, it's a Boyd bear made of mohair, and so I asked Jessica, I said, hey man, can you knit me a sweater? And that's what she made for me.
Did you use ones?
Oh, probably aughts or double
Okay.
aughts.
Is that what they call them?
Zeros? Yeah,
Yeah.
when you've got multiple zeros,
Okay.
and that way you don't have to say 000.
I bought
Yeah.
some triple aughts the other day.
Triple
I like
aughts.
them.
For a little doll sweater.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or dress.
I think my smallest are quad aughts.
I didn't know
But-
they did that. I would have done it on those.
Yeah.
Quad aughts. You need quad aughts now.
Yeah.
So
now I
Peter,
do.
how'd you learn to knit? Where'd you?
Okay, so I got started knitting when I was gardening, this is the time of year when I start thinking about gardening. And I was looking through a catalog, and it was probably actually in November or October. And I saw that they had cotton. You could get cotton seeds and plant them and grow cotton. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. I want to grow cotton. It's like 128-day cycle. So I knew I had to start it indoors around October, November. I think it was October. And well, I was like, well, if I'm gonna grow cotton, I just can't grow it just to grow it. I need to do something with it, right?
Yeah.
So I got to thinking, what am I gonna do? Oh, I can knit it. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. So I went to come here on a Sunday, and then I realized, oh, I'm gonna have to go to Meijer because we're closed. And so I got some aluminum needles and that cotton right there.
Sugar and cream.
Sugar and cream cotton, and I was knitting on green aluminum needles, US 3.
Wow.
Not a good match. The needles,
Cotton?
the
Cotton
needle,
can be hard on your hands.
Yeah.
Oh, it
that's
was
why I
very
don't-
hard on my hands. I go, this is knitting. This is not enjoyable. I was
So
just
did you
not
start
having
with
a
a
good time.
book or
No.
somebody's podcast or how'd you?
So I think we had YouTube back then, and I do remember watching like a how to knit on YouTube. Yeah, and so I struggled because it was cotton for one. You don't want to. I mean,
That's
it's
kind of what I started.
yeah, it doesn't
And that
give.
yarn is a worsted weight.
It is a
on
worsted
threes?
weight. Yeah.
Wow.
I either still have that sample somewhere, or I decided that I no longer needed to hold on to it. But the other thing I ran into though is the needle would fall out because it's an aluminum needle. They're
Or
slick.
just slide.
Yeah, it would just slide right out. So because I didn't know how to put the stitches back on the needle, I would just pull it out
Oh,
and
start
then
over.
recast
Oh,
on and
no.
start all over
How many
again.
times did you knit the one sample?
4 times. 4 times. And I only got, I didn't cast on that many stitches. I only cast on this many stitches.
Sure.
So not that many. And I only did it for about that long. And then I went on the quest for how to knit. Like who teaches people how to knit? Like where can I go? And so fortunately Penny taught here at Always in Stitches. It was about 14 years ago
Wow.
is when I learned how to knit, is by taking Penny's class. So, and
now
then
Janet teaches here.
yeah, now
in
Janet
class.
teaches here. She has a student right next door. You can hear her. And then I thought, well, before I knit it, you know what I have to do? I have to learn how to spin. So
You definitely do for your cotton, which is also like the hardest spinning you can do.
Not quite, but yeah,
Pretty darn
it's pretty
close. I don't know anything harder.
We're
But-
also
I
all
went
three of
through
us
that.
are spinners, right?
Yeah,
and
we
I
all
went
three
through
spin.
the plant my own cotton, spin my own cotton journey also.
Did you?
I did.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
My
But
dad.
not first.
My dad picked up a mini mini bale of cotton for me, and it's a decorative item in my house right now. But my kids periodically ask, Mom, you haven't even opened that. When are you going to open that? And so I weighed it, and I'm like, you guys, this is more than 10 pounds
Oh
of
my
cotton. I
gosh.
am not opening this. Probably ever, because it's going to take me forever to spin it.
Do you still have a bale of cotton?
I do.
I threw
You
out
know
my
what?
cotton.
It's decorative.
That cotton's nice stuff.
The
It is.
stuff I planted like 4 plants, and I made enough for a washcloth, and I crocheted a
Wow.
washcloth. I came in and I just asked Anita, because we work here so we can kind of cheat. So I
That's
asked
amazing.
Anita how to do the stitch that was required. So, and she
I'm
asked
not
me to
sure
make
it's
it.
cheating, because I tell people all the time, if you've got a quick question, just come in and
Oh,
ask.
okay.
So
Okay.
it's okay.
I thought
Not
it was cheating.
I'm impressed. That's awesome.
That was fun. They're really pretty, and I
The
planted
flowers
it
are
in my vegetable garden with okra, and I did not know
Oh.
the 2 plants
Uh-huh.
look almost identical until the seed pods start
Yeah,
forming.
because
the
It's
flowers
amazing.
even are
The
similar.
I didn't know
flowers
that.
are like one's yellow and one's a little purple, maybe. They're really pretty next to each other.
Cotton is
it
so
was-
beautiful when it blooms.
It is really pretty.
Oh my gosh. The bloom and the bowl, and then there's so much excitement when you plant cotton, what to look forward to, all the different cycles of a plant.
Yeah, and then at the end, because it's Indiana, I had mine outside, and I was like, are they gonna bloom? And like, is it gonna
Is it
get to a
ever
bowl
gonna
stage?
bloom?
Well, is it gonna get to a bowl stage
Yeah.
before the frosts
frost,
hit?
yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I was sitting there praying every day, come on, come on, come on, and they popped open, And I still have a few in a little vase at home because it's so pretty.
It is.
Oh, that's all. I wish I would have saved mine.
You
I didn't think about doing that. When I grew linen, though, I saved my linen. I still have my linen.
I was gonna do
I
that
finally
too,
got rid
but
of mine.
Did you?
I did.
I was gonna do that, but I was afraid of the fermenting stage. So
Yeah.
Mine's up on a shelf in the garage, so it dried beautifully. It'll be available for a rainy day.
yeah.
Well, hey, if we're jumping to linen, that's what's next on my needles.
Oh, is
Oh.
it?
Show.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So
Segue.
That's a good segue.
yeah, so I'm a spinner, a weaver, a knitter, right? I do all these things, and so I actually have this pretty skein of hemp yarn that I bought to weave with, and that's this pretty thing. I'm dropping everything. Thank you, Sarah. So it's this real cool teals and purples and blues, and I'm like, that's gonna be real pretty
That
someday.
is.
And I've had it for more than a
soft.
day, and I haven't woven with it yet. So I thought, oh, I could knit something with it, something light and airy, like an overshirt. But then I'm like, I've never knit with hemp. I don't know what I'm getting myself into. I didn't want to break out my one and only skein, so I found a little bit of linen. This is 20/2 linen, so it's crazy skinny. I don't know if you can even see that against my hand. It's the same color. But so I cast it on the needles. And so I made a little sample with it to try and find out how does it behave, do my hands like it, you know, like different fibers are different in your hands. And then I'm like, oh, well, I've got a pattern that I think would be cool, so I tried it in a bigger yarn, nice and easy, right?
Is that the
It's
still linen? That doesn't. Look
this
like
is
linen.
no longer linen.
Okay.
This is like I jumped ship. I'm like,
Okay.
I
So
think
is-
I'll try easy first.
Is linen always this gauge?
Linen's funny because so this little sample is the same pattern as this, but in linen.
And it's bigger.
More open, more
Yeah.
holy. Yeah.
Linen,
But
yeah.
its gauge changes apparently when you wash it
Oh.
because it relaxes. Right now, linen's got really, really long fibers. We're talking a yard, 36 inches
Oh.
easily. And so when you work with it, it kind of cranks. It's like, I don't want to turn the corner. And so apparently when you wash it, that's when it relaxes and gets into its groove. So I haven't washed these yet. They're just fresh off the needles. So I don't know my gauge. I just wanted to see if I could do it. And, you know, don't hold me to this project. I may never get it done, but I
you're
thought it would be
playing.
fun
You're
to play with.
experimenting.
Yeah.
And you're a swatcher. This
Oh, I
is-
am a swatcher.
This is how you learn and discover and develop, right? It's through your swatches.
For me, yeah, and especially because I often play with hand spun yarns. Like this yellow sample's commercial, but I mean, if I spin the yarn, I don't have a ball band. I don't know what size needles I have to use for it because nobody says. So you know, I have to swatch and see is it going to behave like cardboard or is it going to flow or what's it going to do.
Yeah. And I noticed that I've seen you do a lot of swatching, and it's amazing things that I've learned just by watching you and seeing what your swatches are and hearing about your swatches.
Yeah.
Are you a swatcher?
No.
Me either. I knit my first 4 inches of my sweater and I'll learn the pattern as I'm doing that and then I rip it out if I don't like it. So like if I make a mistake, I will rip it out. Or no, 3 mistakes.
Even though like that much, it's that much more knitting.
Yeah, I
you do
still
it
would
anyway.
rather, well, because you do change in a swatch versus over 120 stitches, so you possibly could, but I don't have the patience for swatching. And
You just
so,
want to cast on the project,
yeah,
get going.
I want to get going, and I don't really mind. It's very meditative for me to knit, and so I don't mind knitting wrong and then having to, and
'Cause
we'll
it's
have
more
a
knitting
story
time.
about the sweater I'm wearing
Someday.
Well,
at some point.
We knit for enjoyment. That just means you get more enjoyment.
Exactly.
mileage
That
out of
is.
your
yarn.
Yeah, and that's what my husband says that. So if I rip out an entire sweater, which I do, he's like, well, then you just get more money for your yarn, like more use out of the money you
for your
spent.
buck.
Yes.
So if it takes me 6 weeks to knit a sweater and I rip it out at the end and redo it, then I got 2 months, 3 months of knitting out of the same bolt, you know.
Yes.
Purchase.
That's a nice perspective.
Yeah, so I don't mind ripping out for the most part, but sometimes I give them away to friends. This
I
is
don't know.
really small.
I made a mistake. Like, I made a sweater for myself, my first sweater for myself, and it was one of these Aran, lots of pattern stuff. Peter, I think you've got a picture of it. I wear it now.
Do we have it somewhere on a chair?
Oh, we do.
Yes.
But I was working on this one. This is a Debbie Bliss, and I don't know if you
Here,
can
let
see
me-
all the different.
I'm gonna.
Like
There's
there's
a detail.
columns of patterns, and so you had to sort of choose how many columns you needed,
This part.
and
Oh yeah.
it was a great sweater. But I did my swatch, like we were talking, and sometimes your swatch isn't truthful, and so I cast on all those patterns, and I ended up with a sweater that was big enough to fit my 6-foot-tall husband.
Oh no.
So I only did the back at that point, and then I'm like, okay, I've got to fix this. But it was I couldn't
a
rip
lot
it
of
out.
work to it.
And
No.
so I just picked up another ball of yarn, put my huge back on some sort of holder, and then I knit a new back in my size. And by the time I think I had the back and 2 sleeves done, I was comfortable with ripping out that first huge
Right.
back, but it took a minute.
When you need that yarn.
Yeah, yeah, not
It
before.
takes courage to rip out too.
Yeah.
It does, because I mean you invest in it, and I don't know, I get attached to my knitting sometimes.
So I have to tell about the one I'm wearing.
What are you wearing?
I'm wearing, it's Gorse by Bristol Ivy, and I love hers because she never just knits straight across. You always do some kind of pattern knitting. So this, you knit the back up to the sleeves, and you knit the sleeves, and then you knit the lace along them. But I didn't knit, I did my pattern wrong. So this is my second one.
Wait, so
Right
you
here.
pick up so you
Pick up the stitches.
the back is bottom up,
Yep, two
and then
here.
the fronts are from the side to the center.
Yes.
Okay.
And then you pick up a little bit more of the lace each time you pass around, and as you decrease for the sleeves. So my first one I knit, they do the raglan decrease on the front and the back, and so my arms turned out to be 6 inches, which mine, I'm very short, so mine is really 7.5, but most people's is at least 8, and so it wouldn't fit. And the bind off is very permanent. So
Oh,
I
no.
gave that one to a friend and I redid it. And this is the thing I have to show you. This is the back of the knitting, and those little
A little bit
floats.
more
back-
this way. They're right
Okay.
there. Yep.
The floats that you see on the back are supposed to be on the front.
Oh, that's what you're talking
Yes.
about. Let me
So
Can I see the floats?
my pattern looks completely different, but I
You
like
made your own design.
I did make my own design. It's pretty. It's fine. I'll wear it, but I am going to redo it correctly. I'm like, it took me 2.
So nice.
I knit it twice wrong and
But
didn't
isn't
figure
it
it out.
funny how we do that, right?
Yeah.
It's so nice.
It feels
It's
wonderful.
It
got
does
it's
feel
beautiful.
really comfortable. Yeah. It's the
Feel it. It's touch-o-vision. See me touch it?
I brought one of these. It's ultra light or ultra alpaca light by Barocco. It's yummy. And it's really
Wow.
fun to
That's
knit
the one.
with.
That's what we've got in the shop, right?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
went
Oh my
and pulled one.
gosh. I
It's-
knew I loved this.
It's
Every time I
lovely.
walk past this, I pick up a skein and just hold it
You have
and
to
think,
squish it,
I want to
right?
make socks so bad with this stuff.
Well, I'm making my Fair Isle now with it.
Oh,
I'm-
are you?
Yeah,
Is that the cat one?
the cat one.
Oh,
I didn't
that'll
know
be
you were
here in a-
using the Ultra Barocco.
Yes, I am, because it does really nice with Fair Isle. It holds the stitches, so
It's
That's
bouncy.
interesting because alpaca doesn't have stretch, and so
it's doing
It's
okay.
holding nice.
I'm
This
making
is
sure because I
amazing.
did some stocks. I was like,
Yeah,
I'm
this
not-
is. Look at that.
Yeah.
It just snaps right back.
yeah, it's got it. I don't know why. It is
probably not spinning.
maybe.
This is a gorgeous
It's very
sweater, and the
nice. Thank you.
color.
Just
Color's
wrong.
wonderful.
So it does, because we do it wrong doesn't mean we lose
Doesn't
it.
mean we can't not
I
wear
think
it.
it's worth doing it that
Yeah.
many times.
Well, then
you
I'll
know?
do it again and it'll look completely different because it'll be right. But it has like a slip with yarn in back. And somehow I'm doing the entire thing wrong, like on the wrong side instead of on the purl side. I was
Uh-huh.
supposed to be doing slip with yarn in back, slip knit. but it would be slip slip purl. So then those would be on the correct side. So I have been doing the entire pattern on the wrong side.
See, this is why I swatch.
Yeah.
It's funny, I'll read a pattern for
I wouldn't have picked
decreases.
it up though.
You wouldn't
Yeah.
I still wouldn't have known.
I'll read a pattern for decreases, and you'll have done slip slip knit for I don't know how many sweaters. It's such a useful one, and then they do the slip one, knit one, pass the slip stitch over, and you think you don't catch it until like the next time or something, and then you're like, okay, well I need to incorporate that,
Right.
and see what happens.
Yeah, and that's in there too. And I watched, and so I did them on the wrong side because it fell. It didn't even occur to me that the pattern was supposed to be done on the opposite side. So I had to do slip one, like purl one, slip one over, and purl it over. Instead of in the center double decrease purling.
Oh, yeah.
It never occurred to me that I had the pattern backwards. So now it's going to be a completely different knitting experience.
Do you guys ever realize that as knitters we have our own language,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah.
So she just talked about the the purl and the double decrease, and if you feel like we're talking a foreign language, it's just okay.
Yep.
Ask. We're glad to translate.
And I Google, like every time I start a stitch I haven't done for a while, like the center double decrease, I do CDD. I put it in Google search and get all sorts of videos. So I'm sure
What does that mean? You own
that
another
may be,
direction now?
it's kind of new to me. But anytime I see those letters in the pattern, I have to Google them. I don't have them all memorized.
I believe in the abbreviations page on the
Yeah.
pattern, right?
Well,
I
there's
wanna
always
know.
that too. The way the designer wants you to do it.
It's sometimes though helpful though, like Sarah suggested, just to Google it and get a video.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the brain can do funny things. Like if you've done a previous project or pattern and you're stuck on a certain way, and then their abbreviation, you can read it, but because you've done it so many times, once the yarn's in your hand,
That muscle memory.
muscle memory takes over. So it's kind of nice to kind of recalibrate your what you're going to do with the Google tutorial. That's a good idea.
Especially if you did it backwards for two sweaters.
Does that mean you have to like turn around in your chair and face the other way?
There you go. Maybe then it would happen easier.
Knit in front of the mirror and look in the mirror at what you're
Oh
doing.
my gosh.
That'll reverse it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought you wanted to.
You have on a nice sweater.
This
Short
is
sleeve.
my.
What's this?
It's
Did you make that?
I did. It's a. Oh my goodness! I didn't look up what it was. It's a sweater I've made twice because it's from a book that I think was published in the late 80s or 90s, and it's a little bit more cropped than what I like. And so when I made it the first time, it's just a smidge too short. I always feel like I'm pulling it down. So
Yeah,
I'm
like you're
I'll-
pulling it down.
I'll
Yep.
I'll adjust it and I'll make it a little longer and it'll be nicer. And so I did, but I did it in different yarn and the yarn shrunk differently.
Oh no.
And so yeah, so I made all these changes, but I really like it. It's got a really cool, you're not gonna be able to see this. It's got a cool cable in the sleeve
does.
ribbing.
Yeah, it does.
Get
And
your
then
arm
it's
up
got
there.
these. I'll just take my arm off and put it up. Well, anyways, it's cool. It's just a short sleeve, nice cotton. It's a really good sweater for this sort of in between season when it's not too hot yet, but it's not warm in the mornings and you need something a little more. So it's nice. If you come in the shop, I wear it regularly.
I always make my sweaters too short. That is, I get impatient to start the next step.
Yeah.
And so if I go bottom up, I like top down better because I don't do that. But I always end up thinking it's long enough, and I don't know why I don't like figure out a measurement that works and start aiming for a measurement instead of holding it up. But I always hold it up to my underarm, and I'm like, oh yeah.
That'll be good
And I'm
enough.
sitting down. I always
Not when you're
every time.
stretching.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
my first round on that sweater, it's also too short because I did the exact.
Oh
I've
no.
done this since I was
So,
like 15.
so you like crop tops, eh?
I don't. I like my shirts a little longer, so it's really even double bad.
Double bad. What are you wearing, Peter?
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
I am wearing the XOX sweater, not a cardigan. Sweater. I'm knitting a cardigan. Sweater by Margaret Stewart. It's in the book Country Weekend Knits. It's Fair Isle. So it uses a stranded technique where you hold one color in your right hand and you hold another color in your left hand. You don't have to do it like that. Many people will hold 2 colors in the left hand or 2 colors in the right hand and then just pick the stitch based upon what the pattern is. I love this. This is one that I did a swatch on the go. So I started with the needle size that I thought would be okay. And then after I get about this much done, 4 inches, I'll measure. And if I don't like what I measure, sometimes I'll steam it and see if I get a different result.
Oh gosh, I never even think to do that.
And then,
Did you have to rip it out, or was it good to go?
no ripping, because what I'll
Okay.
do is if my gauge is, say, 30 stitches, it needs to be 28, I'll just start knitting with a larger needle.
Right in the middle?
Right in the middle, yeah, just
Okay.
right in the middle of the sweater. Or if it's 28 and I need to be 30, then I'll go down a needle size and I'll just keep going. Because generally, it ends up working out for me. I don't know
Great.
how or why. I'm doing that right now on a project, but this one I absolutely loved. It uses all natural, no, it doesn't use all natural colors. It uses what looks like natural colors, but I think those are dyed colors from Jameson and Smith yarns. And Jameson and Smith is, they use a Shetland sheep wool. And I love the way the Shetland sheep wool wears. I have a Fair Isle sweater that I did more than 10 years ago, and it doesn't have a single pell on it or
Oh, really?
a bolt. Yeah, there's no pelling. It's
Ooh,
a
that-
rustic wool, so it's just, it wears like amazing.
Yeah.
I'm in love with it.
Yeah, I am amazed at how well some of the wools hold up and just behave.
It has a corrugated. I love Fair Isle sweaters that have the corrugated ribbing. I think if you are a designer and you design a Fair Isle sweater without the corrugated ribbing, it's like, why did you do that? So
like
that's
that
the
texture.
detail.
It's really pretty.
And Fair Isle sweaters, from my understanding, I'm no expert by any means. There's people on the island that know way more about this stuff than I do. But from the information I've gleaned listening to them is Fair Isle is on the Shetland Islands, and their designs typically mirror each other. So the top mirrors the bottom in a row, in a band. Like how you have a band,
Okay.
Yeah.
you can divide it in the middle. And then also it's symmetrical. So if you divide the motif, the left and the right are mirror image each other.
So like here in your sleeve, this
Uh-huh.
sort of round shape,
Uh-huh.
and it's got a white band in the middle and then gray on each end. That's what you're talking, the symmetry?
The symmetry is in the motif itself. So
Okay.
if you had a line right here on one of these circle motifs, the top will mirror the bottom. Now the shading is another characteristic of Fair Isle. What they'll do is they'll give it a shading. So in this gray part on the circle, on that circle, there are 2 shades of gray on the top and then the cream in the middle. On the background on that X, there is a dark brown and then kind of like a caramel color in the middle. And then so you get that almost like that light play off the colors.
It's pretty.
I've
And
always
then-
asked him if it was a variegated yarn, but it's not.
Oh, in my world it would be.
Yeah, exactly. I would use sock yarn. Or
That's a
something.
good question because a lot of people ask that, is it a variegated yarn? But they are solid colors. And the other interesting fact I think that I remember about traditional Fair Isle from Shetland is that you see how you have a design band and then you have these smaller bands. So you typically will have like a big motif and then they'll be separated by smaller bands with these smaller rows
Okay.
with the little smaller motifs.
Yeah, I can see it all up your sleeve.
So if you see it's really cool because you have this big motif here and then it's separated with these small bands and then it alternates with this other motif here. So it gives it a nice design appeal so your eye doesn't get bored.
I would make a mistake on one. I'm pretty sure I would get the order wrong at some point.
So Peter, you do a lot of Fair Isles.
Yes.
Do you like cables as well?
Yeah, actually I started doing cables.
Really?
Oh, I have a hand spun cable sweater. I have a regular cabled sweater. I have a cabled vest. I was doing cables because I didn't know how magical Fair Isle is. And then once I found out how magical Fair Isle is, that's all I've been doing.
That's
Is Fair
funny.
Isle.
A lot of knitters are one or the other, that they do the color play like with Fair
Yes.
Isle or Antarcia, or they do the texture stuff.
The
I know
cables
I-
are amazing.
I love
I mean,
the texture.
when I
cables.
first saw, I'm watching a tutorial because I really want to teach myself how to do cables, and this lady says, hey, you don't need a cable needle, you can just slide it off and then orient the stitches how you need to. I was like, I'm sold, I can do that. I'm not messing around with that cable needle. That was a game changer for me.
It took me a while, but I'm at that
I
point
love
too.
it.
I don't have to pick up the cable needle anymore.
They hurt my hands.
Cables?
Cables.
Cables, it's too much stress. Like
Uh-huh.
the thing
it's
I like
tighter.
about it is like the stretch of the wool. Because I did start on Sugar and Cream, Walmart, back in the 80s. And
You
I was
guys are
like,
fancy. I was more like cheap acrylic.
well, my grandma did the crochet with the cheap acrylic, but we didn't. What we had, I lived in a town with like 8,000 people, and we had Walmart
big
and
town.
Alco. Walmart and Alco, and those were the only places to get yarn, and it was mostly Sugar Cream or something. There was fancy mohair, but I was in high school, so I did not get the fancy mohair, even at Alco. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah.
That's cool. Cool.
Sorry, I'm a good conversation.
You
ender.
are.
I just like wrap it up.
That's why, that's why we need you. See?
To end
You
the
just-
subject.
Well, okay, so
No,
let's segue into this yarn here, because this is the Barocco Vintage, which is a nice wool acrylic nylon yarn. It's not crazy expensive.
Yeah.
But
Oh, that's a
if
good
you're
segue. That's a
looking
good segue.
if you're
That's
looking
right.
for
From-
something
that was a good-
that's a
good
step
job.
up from like my
Yeah.
acrylic days or the sugar and cream.
Right.
Or my cotton days.
Right?
I
Well,
want something affordable, but I can't spend $30 for that
or
hand,
you
hand
think
dyed
us
madness.
spinners are crazy and you don't want to go there, you can
Yeah.
buy yarn, right? And this is a nice one. It's got a good hand. It wears well. Barocco's doing a mystery knit along. So this is one of our store manager Cappy's blocks. She loves these blocks. She like turned all 6 of them out in minutes. But there's all sorts of different things. And so if you're interested in that Barocco blanket knit along, you just go to the Barocco website. We sell a lot of the colors of the yarn, and we've just restocked, so there's lots in stock. But it's every month 1 or 2 different patterns comes out, and you can choose it. But it feels wonderful. It's a really nice yarn, and it's nice to work with, which is another thing. Sarah mentioned that some things hurt her hands. As knitters, we do have to be very careful. These are our tools, and most of us only get 1 pair. So
And
You don't
there's,
have
and there's no turning them back in for another set.
no, exchanges are highly frowned upon. So take care of your hands, and if you find like the linen I'm playing with is a lot like cotton, it's very stiff, and so you have to be careful and listen to your body. Just
When I was doing Sugar Cream, the little teddy bear sweaters, I would actually tape a Q-tip to my pinky. And I'm like, this isn't good.
like as a support.
It's like a splint because it was
Oh, wow.
cramping up.
Oh.
And I'm like, so I was like, I shouldn't be doing that to my hands. And so I gave up knitting for a long time because I thought it was the knitting that was hurting my hands, and it was not. It was the stretch in the yarn.
or the lack thereof.
Lack of. So I
Yeah.
quit using the peaches and cream or whatever, sugar and cream, and started
It's a good
really
oatmeal.
Yeah, that's probably where that comes from. And then now I'm very careful to have natural stretch in the yarn, and so I can use alpaca and wool. And I can even use the blends with the acrylic. So when that gives a natural enough stretch that it doesn't hurt.
doesn't
And I
hurt your
can knit
hands.
for like 12 hours at a time. I don't really do that very often, but it can happen.
I can't knit that long.
What have you got?
I do take little breaks, and I do these little.
Yeah, I'm working on a sweater for my husband, and I'm at the body, and it's all the way around. But I can do 4 rounds and I'm done.
Yeah.
And I just have to take a break. I can't do more than that, otherwise I will hurt, and I
Yeah.
don't like
You don't
hurting.
want to hurt.
What about you? What's your knitting ritual?
I do about, in the evening, I sit down and watch TV with the kids, and I do about, normally the width, and I can tell if my sweater's the right size. If I knit about 4 inch, I think it's probably 2 inches. I call it 4 inches.
That's why it's never long enough.
But I can kind of tell if it's going too fast and I'm not on bigger needles, or if it is going too slow, if it's going to end up being the wrong size. So that is part of my gauging, I guess, is how much I'm getting done. So it's about 3 hours at night that I.
You can get a lot done in
3
3
hours.
hours.
Yes,
you can get
you
a lot
can.
done in 2 hours.
Yeah.
You can also get a lot done bit by bit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I've
Just a
been
tiny little
impressed
bit.
with how much
can
this piece
sneak
has
in.
grown just with my
Yes.
little few rows.
Yeah.
I didn't bring the finished piece out. I
You know-
finished
But
the
you
sweater.
did
Yes,
have it. You
it's-
did?
it's
I have
good
it
that-
somewhere, but I
Thought it
brought
was
the
behind
sleeves
you.
over
Oh,
here.
the
They're
sleeves.
done.
Okay.
It's good that you mention it. I got to thinking, okay, if I knit a row on my lunch break, and I just do that 5 times, that's 5 rows.
Yeah.
You know, in 4 weeks I have 20 rows. I
That's
mean,
true.
You eat
that
lunch every
adds
day, right?
up. That adds up.
It does.
So
And
I
think
like
it's
your
6
idea of, you know, if you say you don't like the long stints because you're busy, there's a lot going on in your household, but you like to knit. If you sneak in like, you know, 15 minutes to a half an hour here in the morning, and then when you get home, 15 minutes to half an hour, and then another 15 minutes, half an hour when you go to bed, that's a lot of knitting. That can
It
be
adds
almost
up.
2 hours,
Right.
hour and a half, 2 hours.
And taking breaks like that is actually better for your body.
It is
Right.
better
Or-
for
or
your
it is
body.
for
to
mine,
not
right?
sit.
It's better for
mine's
my
the
body,
sitting.
too.
Yeah, sitting for several hours at a time is not real good for you either.
It's nice when you've been standing all day.
Yeah,
though,
that's
so-
true. Kick your feet up. No, I put stitch markers in. This is something I also didn't know about till I started working here with stitch markers. But I put them on each repeat, and then I don't have to. And I mark my repeat on my chart with tape. And then I don't have to memorize where I am in the pattern. I can just take short little knitting. So I can sit down for 5 minutes if I'm waiting for people to get their shoes on.
I need to get some of that tape,
Yeah.
Sarah. I totally forgot about it. I
I
get
love it.
lost in my patterns. And I know some people have the nice magnetic holders
Yeah.
with a magnet, but tape. We've
Tape.
got that repositionable see-through tape.
Yeah.
I gotta get some.
Yep. And that would keep me from doing the accidental misplacement of which.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Because I really would get excited about going on and just skip one of them.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea, like you said, mark the repeat, because you can get maybe a repeat or 2 or 3, but you know, to do a whole round, that's depending upon your speed, that could be half an hour.
Right.
If you
Might
have
be too
375 stitches, or maybe it might be 15 minutes if you have 150 stitches, or maybe it's 45 minutes to an hour if you're just, you know, just leisurely knitting. But if you can get a couple charts and then, you know, you get a row done, that's,
Yeah.
you know, at the end of the day, that's a good idea. Spread it out. Very encouraging. Well, anybody working on anything exciting?
Well, I'll show the picture of
Oh.
my husband's sleeves. This is
I
my
love
goodness.
this.
so this pattern
jealous.
is called Mayan Puzzle. It's
Oh.
by Ann Hansen, who has a store called Knit Spot. She's in Ohio. Yeah. It's this cool pattern, and it's entirely based on knits and pearls. And so the trick is just, you know, keeping track. The other day I sat down to do a row and realized partway through that something wasn't right. And sure enough, I tried to go 10 rows above where I was supposed to be in the pattern.
Where the tape helps.
But yeah, but this is a sweater that my husband actually started and then decided it wasn't happening. And so after he'd not been knitting on it for a year or more, I'm like, are you done with that? If you are, give it to me. Like physically give me all this stuff and tell me you're done. And then it'll be mine and I'll do something with it. And so the other day, after he did that, this was a while ago, I actually decided it was time to work on it. And he's like, so what are you going to end up doing with that yarn? And I'm like, well, there's this cool pattern that someone I know had chosen, and we thought it would be fun. So that's what I'm working on. So I've got both sleeves done, and it's got a nice rib on the cuff and on the body. and so it's bottom up, and so I've got, I don't know, somewhere between 4 and 6 inches done, and I've got to get to 16 before I split to do the fronts and the back, but
Nice.
I'm getting there, right?
Isn't that motivation to get to like
Oh.
where you get the sleeve decrease or the
Right?
split for the sleeves?
and then, right? And then it'll be done. But it feels good. It's cushy.
When you block that, what happens? Like, does this all stretch out?
Oh, not
Or
crazy.
It doesn't?
No, because it's a gentle blocking.
Okay.
And in fact,
What's
this
a
is
gentle blocking?
okay.
If that's your gentle, what's your aggressive?
That's
I am aggressive. Like on all things.
okay. So this is a mohair silk scarf.
I don't know.
But see how lacy it is? And when you've got something lacy like this, if you want the lace to really show, you want to pull it really hard so that those stitches open up.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can get the mohair silk here. It's lovely. But with something like this, I wouldn't pull it hard like a lace.
Okay.
I would, there's dimensions on the pattern, and so I would make sure that the length is the right dimension and the width is the right dimension.
Okay.
And this is a superwash, and superwash
Yeah, it comes
yarns
back to-
tends to stretch a little bit.
Oh, okay.
They grow. And so I wouldn't do too much to this
Okay.
because over time it's just going to open out anyway.
I never thought to stretch to the dimensions either. Like,
Sarah,
I know.
that's why. Okay, but you
I'm
made
an
your own
experienced
patterns,
knitter.
not
Right.
follow a lot of patterns. So I follow a lot
My
of
body
patterns.
stretches it out to the dimensions.
Well, exactly.
I'm actually
like,
a
oh, nope.
modifier because I almost never get gauged, so I'm always having to rework a pattern. So I use those dimensional sketches a lot so that I can get it close to what it is. So if a pattern doesn't have a dimension sketch, I look down on it.
I knit a scarf one time
Do you
that.
disqualify it, or is that
I
like
just sort of
is
snub
that
my
one mark
nose at
against
How
it?
could you do that?
See, I knit a scarf one time that was done with knits and pearls, and it was supposed to be a basket weave, and when I knit it, it was so pretty and basket woven and textural,
Oh,
and when
wow.
I blocked it, it ended
Yeah.
up flat.
Oh,
And
no.
I've never, and I didn't
Yeah, so you
ever,
probably stretched it too much.
I'm
with
sure I
your
did,
blocking.
and it was hand spun, hand dyed, I mean,
2 stitches
It-
and put your marker on.
Can you unblock?
Did you have to cry?
I don't know.
Sometimes
you
I have to go
unblock?
have
I
a
was
little
just
cry.
like, well, that's not what I wanted,
Oh,
but
yes.
sometimes I just adjust what I want when it doesn't work out. It's like, it'll still be useful.
You know, that's an interesting point about hand knit. Sometimes we get this idea in our head that because it's hand knit, it's going to be perfect,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
it's as irregular as anything else.
Probably
And,
more.
like, I'll tell you a secret. I had to pin my collar down today because this collar likes to flip up, right? But
These
I'm gonna wear it
ditto.
anyway, so you know, it's just yeah. Sorry, it's just
I'm checking my collar.
yeah, I
Mine
know.
rolls. I can't get it to. I even redid the rib to tighter so that it wouldn't
Oh,
do
yeah,
that, and it
yeah.
still wants to go back. I don't. It's just
Yeah.
gonna do that.
So if you figured out how to do perfect knitting, you come show us and share us the secrets because
We're all-
we're all kind of we do it, but we mess it up too.
So I
Yeah.
have a perfect knitting story.
Yeah, let's
You
hear.
ever just get really excited and you're just really proud of yourself because your knitting is going so perfect?
Why does this sound like something's gonna fail?
As soon as I get excited and I think, wow, I love this, I'm just mastering this, and you know, you just get on this cloud because you're just so excited that you're doing it, it looks great. As soon as you get prideful about your knitting, that's when it gets blessed with errors and mistakes.
That's true.
So now I'm knitting and I'm like, oh, it's okay. It'll be a sweater. I can wear it. It'll keep me warm. Okay, whatever. Just because I want to see if I can get to the end and
And then-
maybe not frustrate myself with some major mistakes that are almost like project ending.
Oh.
Okay, so on the other hand, my great aunt who taught me to knit, my Aunt Marilyn, she would tell me the story about someone else who she had taught to knit, and it was some sort of multicolor intarsia thing, so lots going on. The gal made a mistake, and this is why I knew I had to take out that back of my first sweater, because Marilyn told her, You're gonna see that mistake
Yeah.
every time you look at that sweater. So take the time, go back, and
and
fix it. Because you can do that. You're a knitter. You can, I mean, when you make a mistake, you can run down a column and fix it up, or you can, like your sugar and cream, how many times did you knit it? You can
4 or
rip the whole
5.
thing out and start over. So fix it, make it better.
I agree with that statement. You know, some of us maybe we're committed. We're just, you know, so committed. Oh, that's how I've done it. I want to stay the course. You know, I don't want to acknowledge that it's an error. And I will share that I think sometimes you can actually spend twice the amount of time thinking about your mistake and whether you should take it out, whether you should redo it, and how unhappy you are, but you're just gonna go ahead and deal with it. It's so much quicker than just to tear it off and then redo it. Like that sweater. You know how long I was contemplating on that textured sweater?
How long?
I mean, I could have had it finished if I would have undone it and redid it in 2 weeks. But I sat there and just mulled over the sleeve that was too tight. The sleeve was too tight. So I just sat there and I was like, I don't want to tear it out. Maybe I can just wear it tight. Maybe that's the style. Maybe I should just have fitted sleeves. And then I said, you know what? That's going to annoy me. And then I just walked away from the project and never did anything about it. And then one day I was like, I kept thinking I need to tear that sleeve out, because once I ripped that sleeve out, there's nothing stopping you from putting it on the needles and just go. And then probably like 6, 8, 9 months later, I decided, okay, it's time to rip that sleeve out. And then, would you know, as soon as I got that sleeve ripped out, I was so excited to get it finished and get the other sleeve done that it was like 2 weeks.
So, 2 weeks, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I was excited.
What about the sweater that you pulled out of your deep stash that you put on and it's too
But I
tight?
don't know if it'll clash with the.
Man, so here's the funny, here's
when
the funny
body that you knit
story.
it for doesn't exist anymore, and
So I
you come
knit,
around.
I knit that for a much, you know, and when I was more fit in my day, more fit, like say 10 years ago. So just look back at your pictures 10 years ago, and then you can see how much more fit you are. But yeah, so 10 years in time. And the funny thing is, when I was knitting that halfway up, I questioned the gauge then. And I never did anything about it because it was hand spun.
Right.
And I didn't want all these little bits of Fair Isle, you know, all
Yeah.
over the place. And so I didn't do anything about it. And then I decided, well, one day I just stretched it. And I said, oh, look, it'll stretch to the size I need. So I put it on, and we're going to do some aggressive blocking when that one's done.
He
We're
may
gonna
have-
block
he
that
may
to
have
shape.
grown height-wise too since he did it.
Hey,
It's not gonna come
It's
down.
not quite down.
I guess they make sport coats for that reason.
That's what they're for.
I'll figure something out, man. I'm going to make that one work. I'm committed to that one. Gosh darn, I hand spun that yarn. I'm going to fit into
Are
it.
they each row a separate, like you cut the thread, or are they just run up?
3-row. I think it had like a 3-row, and you switch colors.
So
So-
you'd have all these little balls that are just a little too short because you would, that would be
Yeah,
awful.
and then I questioned whether I'd have enough yarn to do the size I needed
True.
if I redid it.
Do you still
So-
have the extra
Uh-huh.
from the others?
So I'm gonna finish it. I need a sleeve.
Do you have a friend that's just a little smaller?
Right? 'Cause
That's what I do.
That's what you do.
This
We
one's,
have somebody
I
that
can't,
works with me that's just a little smaller than me, so she's getting all my.
I can't give that one away. I gave one away where it was way too big, but this one I can't give away. I'll make it work.
Okay.
I'm committed. Aggressive blocking.
No, though, but that's a real question, because we do change size,
Yeah.
dimensions, you know.
And if you leave something sitting too long, what do you do?
I said I
Now
can.
remember,
Yeah.
and we've got connections to them. It's hard to just
Right.
make them go away, but
Yeah.
this is your friend.
yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it depends on the construction too.
Right.
Because I know you can like split a seam.
Or like you're
And knit it.
doing that one in pieces, so it would be easier to
To put
fit
something
fit
in.
a little strip in there of.
But it'd probably be contrasting yarn, because I don't know that I'd have this
True.
yarn 10 years from now,
True,
right?
unless you keep it all together.
My
But-
grandma would give a little bit of the yarn if she made us
Ah.
a sweater.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
Like
And
for
that
the
way-
buttons.
Yeah, like if a button came off, or if you
Got
had
a
to sew
hole.
something.
I'm going
Yeah.
to teach you.
We should talk about that
Now you
someday.
move your
We
yarn.
should.
We do darning and repairs and stuff.
Yeah, we need to talk about that, because I need to think about maybe keeping so many like a yard
Yeah.
of each color
Right.
for
on
repairs,
a
little card or something.
index card, and stow that away. Because if I get a hole, I could easily duplicate stitch if I have the color, no problem. Nobody will know.
Yeah.
Versus letting it get bigger.
I've only had one sweater that got any damage, and it was just brand new. Like I finished the sweater, and the next time I pulled it out, the yarn had kind of fallen apart.
Oh.
So when you say
Just, but that's only happened one time in all my,
Yes.
and I keep all my sweaters. So stacks and stacks of sweaters.
Did you have to go digging today to bring some?
I did have to go, and I'm like, okay, now it looks like the end of the year when I haven't washed all my sweaters to put away. Like I have this stack of the ones I've worn, and I got them all put away, and now they're in a stack again.
I kept going
Chair.
back upstairs to my bedroom to grab yet another piece, thinking, oh, so I think we may have to do this another time because I felt like I brought everything except the kitchen
You
sink.
see, and I was like, nope, that'll be another one. I'll just put that.
Oh, you're good. I'm not that good.
Jessica brought everything.
I did.
Now, did you bring what you're working on?
I did not bring what I'm working on, but I brought one that I had recently finished.
Oh, let's look at that one.
Okay, this, so I got 4 pounds of alpaca from
Oh
a
my
friend,
gosh, that's
from a friend's
beautiful.
estate, and so this is one of, I've made 3 sweaters and I have enough for another one. I got it all spun.
Little
So this
more.
is called Shadow, and it is, I probably need to block it again.
Wow.
Because it's starting to stretch out, and but it's out of the
Wow.
hand spun alpaca. So you see the pilling that Peter was talking about.
That's not much pilling.
It's not
though.
too bad because
It
I
doesn't look
think
bad.
after I block it again, it'll have less because I go through and shave it. But yeah, it's
I bet it's
supposed
warm too.
It's really warm, so it didn't get worn today. We did our sweater or our knitting on a warm day.
Yeah, so it's early March and the
It's
temperatures
yummy.
are
It's really a nice.
ranging like from 30s in the mornings, and it's supposed to get into the high 60s this afternoon. So we're definitely in that shifting temperature phase.
That's stunning.
Feels
It's a really.
This is an
thank you.
heirloom.
I hope so.
That's an heirloom.
Yeah, but it's needing to be refreshed. Yeah,
But
because
alpaca is one of those that stretches
It
like
did,
cotton.
yeah.
They kind of grow, and so you do need to wash it and let it shrink back up.
rest
I
again.
think that cable stitch is perfect for alpaca because you get reinforcement with the cable.
Yeah, it does help to
Versus-
not be a knit purl design.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. And I did see, even though cabling kind of hurts my hands, I did do a whole sweater of cables.
Can we talk about the collar?
Yeah.
So my pet peeve on knits are collars that don't fit. So look at how nice this collar is.
And that's a double collar, so the inside is knit, and then you sew it down, so that helps reinforce it too.
So when
To
you
have
when
that.
you have this on, that means there's not going to be any space
Right.
between your neck and the collar. That's like on this one. It fits perfect. It's not tight. It's not loose. I don't.
You don't have to pin it.
Yes, I remember one time I knit a sweater, and I didn't know enough about knitting, but I was so disappointed because the collar had all this space between the neck on each side, and I just thought that looked hideous. I mean, I come from a background in menswear, and we're so used to everything fitting, impeccably because we did custom clothing. And it's like, if you're gonna take the time to make something, so from that point forward, one of the first things I'll look at is the neck.
See how it fits.
How does that neck fit?
I have a concern with my cat knit purl is a yoke
Uh-huh.
design, and so I'm growing as I go out, but it started out pretty large, and you're doing repeats, so you can't just eliminate a few stitches. So I am thinking a lot about how I'm going to get that collar to come in, because I don't like boat necks, especially in the winter.
So a lot of top-down designs, you come back and add a color, right? So is that what yours does?
It is.
So you may be able to make adjustments.
Could
I
you,
might be talking to you guys.
when
what I'm gonna do.
you pick up stitches, can you say pick up 5 and skip 1, or can you,
I think so.
something like that?
Does
maybe
it look
maybe
good on-
bring it in.
Because I do
not
that on
not
the fronts a
aggressive,
lot
but
of
very
times.
subtle. Like if you can.
See, I would be aggressive.
I don't think
a
of
lot
you as
of
being a very
everything.
aggressive
I'm
person,
aggressive
Sarah.
with my crafting. I just do a lot of whatever I do, and
I
might be a problem. But yeah, I don't know if I would do like pick 3 and skip 1. And I've learned to not pick up the big stitch because then you end up with a hole. So I always pick up the smaller stitches. So I'll have to see. But that one, because I cast on, it's cast on, there's not going to be big and small. So I'll have to maybe
We'll figure
do it
something
more
out.
than time. I might have to rip it out.
I actually redid the collar on this sweater because the original collar was a big
Oh, okay.
ribbed. It was real pretty,
It looks nice.
but it was also one that likes to slide off your shoulders, and
That's
I
what
like
this
my
will
clothes
do.
to sit on my body and
Yeah.
not slide.
Right.
So
Put it on and
eventually, I
leave
redid it. Yeah.
Yeah, nice and trim.
Or not, obviously not.
Well,
Do you have something on your needles, Peter?
I do.
What's on your needles?
I have a sweater, a
And it's
cardigan.
going to be a Fair Isle.
I have a cardigan. Hey, how'd
wait.
you know? How did you know?
I've only seen him knit Fair Isle, and I've
I don't
only
think-
seen 1 or 2 that are not
Oh,
Fair Isle
close-
that he's
close
worn.
pen
Oh,
so you don't get ink on it.
that's pretty Alice.
So here we have an Alice Starmore sweater. And this is the Alice Starmore Hebridean yarn. I'm
Those
gonna
are
try to see if I can
really pretty colors.
hold this up
I
so
don't
you
think
can
I've
see
ever
it.
seen you have that many, like,
These are like
they're
jewel tones.
jewel tone as opposed to usually he does earth tones.
Yes, I do earth tones, and as you can you imagine how excited I would be to do another earth tone sweater after finishing the one I had on?
So that's why you're going jewel tone.
That is why
There,
I picked this
beautiful.
one.
That's beautiful.
That's
And
just
there's your
amazing.
corrugated
Yeah.
rib.
And
Yes.
so now question, so those
Uh-huh.
are not like self-striping, you're just switching color.
Yeah, switching colors. So you have a ball like this in the right hand because this is the background color, and then you have the color which is the patterning color in the left hand. And the name of this pattern is called Oregon Autumn. And Alice was inspired by the design driving through Oregon during the fall, and so
These
that's how she
colors
came
were?
up with this color
Oh, really?
palette.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, so Alice Starmore is a person.
Yeah, Alice Starmore is a person,
Oh.
and the yarn is from Scotland.
He's a whole
You're
box.
gonna-
You have
So
to show.
here are the box. There's 17 different colors in here. So I just have them all thrown in here. But the other thing I love is I put lavender sachets. Anytime I knit a sweater, I always store several lavender sachets because I love the smell of lavender. And it also makes sure that the garment when I'm finished is protected. So that's the box of yarn,
I
17
mean,
different
instead
colors.
of mothballs, is that?
Oh, please don't use mothballs.
It's like Easter Sunday.
Yeah,
People bring.
Overwhelming.
yeah, Easter Sunday, that's funny.
It's always when they bring things out from the.
So, Peter, you don't have a whole lot of this done. I mean, you've got almost 5 inches done, but you were talking about the striping on the sweater you're wearing. Is this one going to have similar striping?
So you can actually see it in the motifs. If you notice on the peach color on the bottom, I don't know if you can see this, on this peach color on the very bottom, it has banding. So here we have the peach with a purple, and then we have a green band with tan pattern, and then we have a lighter green. And then as you notice, when it's on when the background changes, there's a change too in the pattern color. And so that's what gives you that kind of that alternating color play going on in the pattern. It creates movement almost,
Yeah.
as opposed to being static. Because if you just had the shape of a leaf, one color on the color background, it would be very flat and not very dimensional. But this, I have a word and I can't think of it. Undulating.
Yeah.
So
Yes, it looks like it moves. It's undulating. The pattern, it shifts, it changes because of the shading and the colors. And I will tell you, Alice Starmore, knitting with these colors, you can really come to appreciate what a genius somebody is by the intention of the colors that they use, what they sit next to, and how they change. And I mean, she's amazing. And I finally got to a point in my knitting where I said, you know, I think I'm ready for an Alice Starmore.
yeah. Treat yourself to something
Yeah.
special. You're good enough.
That's neat. I have a question because I'm
Yeah.
doing
this year we had.
Fair Isle also right now.
Yes, I love your Fair Isle. Oh, it's so awesome.
It's
and,
cats.
and you watch the cat.
kitty
did you?
cat.
And you watch the cat in the McDonald's restaurant. Didn't
Yes,
you?
I did watch the cat in the McDonald's. You'll have to Google that if you haven't seen that. But when you switch over on colors, when I knit with it, I always get like a really big loop. Are you just going back and tugging each one, or do you naturally get yours to not do the big loop?
So it's the way I hold the yarns and how I tension. So in order to not get big loops, or if you have,
Actually, Peter, show them the back, the inside of your sweater, so
That's
they
what
can
they
see.
so it's how you tension the yarns. So if you have anything over 4, you want to wrap the flow. So if I have a stitch like where it's 5 blue, what I'll do is I'll wrap the rust color so that way you don't get very long floats. So the longest float I have is going to be 4 stitches. If it's longer than that, I'll wrap it so my floats aren't long. But the other thing I do is I'm intentional when I have it on this needle right here and I'm knitting my Fair Isle, I'm constantly scooting the work down. So if I say knit, 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 and it's 4 colors, what I'll do is I'll take my pinky, I'll shift this down, and that spreads out the stitches. So then when I take the opposite color and bring it forward and I go and knit that stitch, I can hold it taut and get rid of any excess, but yet also it's not going to be tight because I spread out the stitches.
So you kind of open them to accommodate that yarn coming over. So you don't
Yes.
have to do anything special. Yeah,
Yes.
that's interesting.
Yes. And the other thing is too is I don't
We do
tension
funny things sometimes.
I don't tension that new color until I have a second stitch. Once a second stitch is on that needle next to it, then when I go and put the needle into the third stitch, well, the needle's still in there, then I tug it and I watch it tighten, and that way it protects the float. It doesn't draw the float tight.
Okay.
So it's kind of
That might be what I'm doing,
yeah.
because it's on the previous row that I get the big stitch. So when I'm coming along, I like tip it forward and
Throughout your HUD statement.
pull on each of my little floats to snug it up. But
And you can always let me watch how you do it, and I can give you
Okay.
tips, because I can look at what you're doing and maybe guide you onto something that will work out better for you.
okay, because I know it's got to be something I'm doing.
It's no magic, right?
No, it's just-
always something that
Right,
we're doing.
right,
I just did.
Yeah,
That, which
Operator
means we
error.
can change it.
right.
yeah. If you're, that's a good point. If it's something that you're doing and it's not an effect you like, then there's going to be something that's opposite to that that'll make it the way you need it to be for that project.
I mean, they're babies.
So it's kind of like on this project, there's things that I notice and I follow the pattern, but because I've done so many, I know how to correct things. And then it's whether it's my decision whether I want to do it or not. I still haven't enough experience though, because if I change something based upon how they wrote the pattern, then I could run into a pitfall down the road. So I'm kind of just sticking with how the pattern's written, and then there'll become a point where I'll know intuitively based upon reading ahead in the pattern how something's done, and then if I need to make a change without totally messing it up. But I'm not there yet, so I'm just following the pattern.
The shape that he's making, so it's an autumn because she was inspired.
Leaf,
Okay.
yeah.
But
It's a leaf design.
it's so much bigger than the other band. I was seeing it in this until he was messing around with it, that it's going to form
Yeah.
across the. But you're changing colors
I'll hold
pretty
that
evenly, aren't you?
In the leaf, there's maybe nine stitches in that pattern where it goes across on this leaf right here, where it goes across the widest part of the leaf. It doesn't change like right here,
But like also,
like right there. That's a real long row.
it seems like you change colors every 4 rows. Is what I'm. Even up here, do you also? Is it
It
going
looks
to
Like your
always?
background color.
Yes, it does look like it changes regularly.
Because that's one of the things I've noticed with a skilled pattern writer versus someone who just wrote down what they did willy-nilly. Is
Are you pointing at yourself?
yeah, like me.
I
is
heard that in your voice.
is their
You get real adjusted to
size
that.
increments are even,
Then
so they'll do
when else can you come?
reductions in even distances instead of, so like I would think, okay, it needs to come in here now, and so I would reduce, or whatever, decrease, and something like that, where you would have even numbers of, she wouldn't just go, oh, you know what, I feel like changing colors in the background now, because that wouldn't be along with the pattern. The pattern repeats carefully.
Let me tell you how methodical she is. Some Fair Isle patterns will have you change both at the same time. She's only having you change one color,
Okay.
and then the next row change the next color.
Interesting.
And I love her for that.
That makes winding your ends in, or blending your ends in, easier too, because the color changes on your threads aren't going to all be in one place.
If you're doing a crew neck, absolutely. The other thing that makes her really intelligent is because this is a cardie, she got to really go crazy on the 17 different colors because there's nothing to weave in. You steeked up the front. So
Oh.
you cut the opening up the front.
Is that why there's a big?
And that's
So-
why there's this.
Yeah,
yarn
I'll
mass in
show,
the center.
let me show them the steek. So a steek is a bridge of stitches that joins the knitting, so that way you can continuously knit it in the round. The sweater I'm wearing, the designer decided to knit it back and forth once she got to the armholes,
Okay.
which I protested vehemently, and I knitted it in the round anyway. But these bridge stitches allow you to continue knitting in the round. And then what you do is you take a nice pair of scissors and you just cut your knitting. And then what you do is for your button band, you just pick up the stitches along the front. And then you knit those in the corrugated ribbing for your button band.
It's gonna look so nice.
That is,
I love it.
yes.
Hoppe.
Wow.
Wow. So, what are we gonna talk about next time?
Well, actually, I got some stuff still on my.
Oh,
Is
is
there
there more on the
cupboard.
list?
Yeah, we
What
got
did we
them.
miss?
Well, the cool thing is, there's. I don't know how you guys found this video. I don't know how it's in your feed, how you're watching it. We are so happy that you're here, and we just want to share our love of knitting with you. And if you get excited that you want to learn how to knit, you can come to the shop. You can take a course with Janet. You can learn how to knit online. There's lots of tutorials. Speaking of, though, is there's a make-along. There's a Malabrigo knit-along starting April 2nd. If you would reach behind you and just take it off that mannequin.
Or just put the
Here, I brought
mannequin on
some
the
here.
table first.
So it's,
While she's putting that up, I'll show you the basket of.
And this is the yarn that it uses. It uses two different colors of the Malabrigo dos Tierras. And then we put it with a Barocco
Vento.
Vento, which is a brushed alpaca. It
That's
gives it
really
a very
pretty.
soft
And it has stretch.
drape.
It does, right? Which is
so
important
excited.
on comfort for your hand.
Yeah.
Here, Sarah, show them the shawl.
Okay.
And so in this shawl, when you hold the two colors together, no, it alternates, right?
Yeah.
think
One
it
color,
does.
then the other color.
And it's an interesting stitch.
So it alternates one color, then you knit with the next color. And then that light blush pink area, that's the brushed mohair.
That's gorgeous. I love the feel of that.
It's really, really nice.
It is really nice.
It's not mohair though. It's alpaca.
Brushed alpaca.
Yeah,
Brushed
I think you said
alpaca
mohair,
with-
but
it-
that's okay.
Brushed.
It has with
If I
acrylic.
did correction, brushed alpaca.
There we go.
that's pretty yarn.
And you know, we have so many different yarns at our disposal. We wanted to pick something different, just so you know, to give customers an idea that there's different yarns that you can use to create it. This is the Alpine shawl.
Oh, that one.
So this is it starts April 2nd.
That's
It's called the
one's
Owl.
coming.
Yeah, this one's
Right.
coming. Alpine shawl, April 2nd. It's designed by Jill Tamian from Knit Sisu.
Oh, okay. So we are still talking about the same thing. I get
Yes.
confused. Some
That's
days.
okay. There's three of us. There's a lot of thoughts going on. Now the cool thing is, this knit shawl, you'll need to know how to knit, purl, working flat, increase stitches, and there'll be decrease stitches. There's pattern help available. There'll be a Ravelry thread, a Facebook group, and weekly Zoom meetings with a designer to help you. And you can always call our online department, and we can help you with your yarn selection if you want to make this.
I think it fits nicely, so come in.
Oh
and-
yeah, it does.
You know, we have samples in the shop, and so we encourage you to come in and pet them and feel them. And
Or just the yarn. We
we pet it.
We pet it.
regularly.
Thank you for doing
It's
that.
pretty shawl.
I have a fair number of sweaters knit out of this.
Do you?
I
I have
do.
a I have
This-
an Afghan
the
that I
color.
crocheted.
This
Oh,
color.
not that color.
No,
I have
the-
that yarn.
This is my color that I don't let myself buy any more of.
Because your wardrobe is filled with it.
Yeah.
That's good. He's crossing stuff off the list. We must have gotten most of it. Anything left?
I have a
Oh,
future knitting
I
plan.
think we have.
Oh, what
what's
are you
your
gonna knit
future knitting
next?
plan?
So my future is also a past.
Yeah, what's your future? It's a past.
It's another one of those where I knit and gave to a friend. So, because I didn't follow the pattern, I decided I was going to do my own thing, and it did not fit right. I'm like, stop it, just follow the directions. So, this is the dahlia, and it starts with a medallion in the middle, and then you, what is it, where you have a provisional.
Cast on?
Yeah, except that's not really. When you knit in a piece of yarn for the armholes, which
Oh,
to
like
me,
a gusset.
no, like you say I'm knitting in purple. I have, and I'll take a red piece of yarn and knit just
Lifeline.
Oh, except you're gonna tear it out to put in your
Waist yarn.
Yes,
We
waist
get
yarn.
that.
I
Live
couldn't-
stitches.
Yes, and
You use
so-
the waist yarn so that way you pull it out and then you have live stitches to
Yes,
then join.
to knit my
I
sleeve.
can't believe don't believe I got that. I got lucky.
That was good, but you knit out from the medallion to the fronts. Like everything gets knit out from there. And
That's
I didn't,
cool.
I sort of feel it ends up with like a shawl type front.
Oh,
And
there's
I-
that tape that I want to buy.
Yeah,
Sorry, I gotta get that.
that's perfect. But I wanted a more traditional front,
Oh,
and so I'm not real happy with having to knit it the way that it is, but I've learned I can't just edit the pattern my way. I'm not a pattern writer.
isn't it terrible how we learn these things?
I know. And I had this beautiful yarn that it was iced tea, and it was tea colored, and I had like all this plan with the colors. So now I'm going to use this Ba yarn that I got
have
here. I don't think we carry. They did a trunk show for us, and I bought I just love these colors. So I'm going to do that next. Right now I'm doing all my Q patterns that I've wanted to do for a really long time. I'm
Oh,
like,
wow.
just do them. I get interrupted by things like the cat yarn
Yeah.
Pharaoh
Are
thing.
those patterns that are in your Ravelry queue you're talking about? Or are you
They
just
have
talking about in
been.
queue?
I don't do that anymore, but
Okay.
in my head I have.
In your head you have a queue.
And I've done like 4 patterns that I really, really wanted to do all my knitting career. And now I'm on like this one. I'm going to get that done for myself.
Yes.
After that comes up next after my cat
Yes.
Pharaoh.
I'm proud of you. Get it done.
Thank you. I'm
Make
getting
it
them
happen.
done. One
Mine
sweater
is
at a
more,
time.
Mine is more potential, right?
Yeah.
I found a pattern. I found a yarn. I'm swatching and testing, but please don't hold me to it.
Yeah.
Because
you don't know if you'll do it.
Well, because it's going to take me weeks yet before I finish this Mayan puzzle sweater, and so I can't commit. That I can't be confident that I'm actually going to get there. I may change my mind 3 times before. I mean, I already put away the alpaca yarn that I was going to make a shawl with before I decided I was going to finish this sweater.
Well, I did change. I was going to do, it's called Sylvie, and it's a coat, and it with textures on the back, and I don't want it to be a long coat, and the short version I found no longer has a pattern online, so that got put aside. Because it's heavier, and I knit by season, so this is a lighter weight yarn. And so since we're heading into warmth, I don't want a really heavy yarn sitting in my lap.
Yep.
So I'm picking lighter weight yarns to accommodate the heat
It's
that isn't
coming.
here. Yeah, 80 degrees by Friday.
I remember knitting outside in July and August. You know, it's 90 degrees and I'm working on a wool sweater.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, it's something else. But you know, it's funny how you mentioned your queue. I have a queue, and you know what's nice about having a queue is it really organizes it, because if you like it, throw it in the queue. If you like it, throw it in the queue. And what you're doing is you're filling the funnel with potential projects. Doesn't mean you're going to make them all.
Right.
But what's going to happen is, just like you fell in love with one, you're going to fall out of love potentially with it as well, as you find others to fill the funnel.
Right.
And then in with lies the gem of the project that you know you want to knit, because you've been doing a comparison of all the projects in your queue, and then you realize this is the one that rises like cream of the crop to the
Right.
top for you to just put it on your needles and start knitting.
Right.
That's what I found out about the queue. Because you know how many projects I've turned down that otherwise I would have ordered the pattern, ordered the kit. I thought I was dead set on making it. But as I'm knitting a sweater, I'm continuously finding projects to queue
what
or
I do too.
to favor.
Yeah.
And then
I'm in the middle of a project, so I have to be thinking ahead.
I already know what the next one is I'm going to knit, you know? But of course, it could change.
It can
Right.
Could
change.
change.
Yeah, no
Never
promises.
know.
Well, come visit us. We're here in Noblesville, Indiana, at Always in Stitches. It's a
We
big
got local
shop.
yarn shop day.
Oh,
Oh.
it's coming.
Yes.
April 26, 2025. We're doing a big thing. We have a next door
Big.
event center, and there's going to be, oh my goodness, we've got a yarn vendor who dyes her own wool, so all of us spinners are going to be just drooling. That's really cool fibers. We've got, oh my goodness, the gal who
Janet's-
ran Black Sheep Yarns.
Karen.
Karen is her first name. She's going to come. We've got our knitting instructor, Janet Votter. I'm there with needle felting, so if you've
Oh.
ever wanted to stab something and not just hurt something, but end up with a product, that's what we'll be doing.
Tell you how to not hurt yourself too, probably.
Yeah.
No, I
my
just
concern.
carry
Safety
Band-Aid.
Oh, okay.
Oh my
We
goodness.
sell those
Peter's
now, too.
bringing his spinning wheel, right?
Yes,
Here
I'll be
in
spinning
the
in the
shop.
shop. I'll be carding Shetland fleece for hand spinning to show you how to spin yarn out of a fleece.
So that's happening. Come visit us. We're really kind of weird, and that's our normal way of being, and we'd love for you to join us and just hang out. Peter does a knit group on Saturday mornings, so if you need folks to come and be with when you're knitting, come and hang out. We're cool with that.
And we're not very far from downtown Noblesville. There's a lot of great antique shops. Like, we have a wonderful downtown.
And coffee
We have
shops
places
and-
to get coffee and ice cream and wonderful restaurants too. So many people will drive. Each weekend I meet people that are 1, 2, 3 hours away that drive here, bring their their significant other to shop for quilting fabrics and yarns and wool applique and things like that. And
Can
we're
bring a
also
group of
online
friends.
too. So any of the products that we show you, you can call Deborah. She's our online concierge, so she can help you with your purchases in store and shop for you. She can do the shopping for you, so you can stay at home and continue making, and you don't have to waste time with shopping. You can have her do it.
I always like to have a stash at home, though, so that I can just
Yeah.
pick it up and get started if I need to.
Well, we made it through our first episode.
Woohoo!
We
Fist
did it,
bump.
man. We did it. We've only been wanting to do this for like 6 months.
Thanks for listening, folks. We'll see you next
Thank
time.
you.